Good morning from Panhandle Outdoors, America's only daily outdoor TV show. Your source for fishing, hunting, and information for folks who enjoy the great outdoors. Now sit back, relax. It's Panhandle Outdoors.
Good morning, folks. Welcome to Panhandle Outdoors. I'm Winston Chester. Glad you're here this morning. On Monday morning, we got a special guest here. All kind of exciting things happening this week. I'll be on the road some with some video. But let's get started this morning with our weather brought to us by Haney Technical Center at the corner of Baldwin Highway 77. High today is only going to get up to 88 and low is 77. Water temperature is still around 88 degrees on the buoy out there. Monday moon phase, we just had that big full moon last Wednesday night, so we're looking at it's going to start waning a little bit, but still got plenty of light though later on at nights and all. So be aware of that if you get out and do some floundering. Our tide chart brought to us by Kent Forest on our moon phase is brought to us by Mountain Dew. Take it outside with Mountain Dew. And I know y'all enjoy that cold drink right there. The moon phase is important to us. Every Monday we talk about it. That's why so many old timers really, that's why they didn't have all these electronics. They used to fish by the moon and by the tides. All right, speaking of tides, the tide chart brought to us by Kent Forest Lawn. The high tide is right at smack dab in the middle of the day, right at 11:59 a.m. Not much movement in the tide. It's going to be low tonight at about 9:08. Marine forecast will be west-southwest at about 10. That takes care of our outdoor weather. Let's go ahead and take a break, come back with our guest this morning. Welcome back, and our guest this morning, a familiar face here. Every month we get the honor of having our own Travis Bassford on the show. Good morning, Travis.
How you doing?
I'm doing well, buddy. How you doing?
Doing great.
How's that family doing?
Doing good.
Those kids sometimes
it's busy.
They don't sleep all night sometimes, don't they?
Yep, it's touch and go.
All parents have been through that. So we all been doing what's been going on?
Oh, well, just a little bit of everything. I mean, this is the busiest time of year for us. July being probably for, saltwater fishing and boating, the busiest month of the year. And we've been busy and took time to go. I think I went one time during snapper season.
Yeah.
Actually went fishing, but the rest of the time just working it, having a great time, and seeing a lot of good fish, and most people following the rules, so that's a good thing.
Well, that's always good. I know so many of us recreational guys, just with the weather, it's been tough on that, 30 days, and it's just been hard to fit it in.
I tell you what, and I was talking to a friend of mine, it's like the roughest June and early July that I can remember. Usually this is like the calmest weather we have because it's before the storm season, and usually we get this, 1 foot or less, 1 to 2s, but man, it was just so many times. If you didn't have a big boat, 2 to 3, 2 to 4, it's just not fun to be out there. So, so it was a rougher season.
Well, you brought a couple of pictures, and this is a great picture. Tell us about this one.
That's me and my dad, and we got to go.
That's beautiful. Look at that water.
Oh yeah, it was gorgeous, and we got to go one time. It was me and my dad, Nicole, and we had a successful trip. We didn't limit on red snapper, but we caught some other stuff, as you can see. And I think, just to clarify, I think that's Nicole's mangrove snapper.
Okay.
I caught one. I was just grabbing it for the picture, but she caught a really nice mangrove snapper that day.
All right.
So we had a good time. We caught some snapper and grouper.
I know you just have to squeeze that time in to go fishing. You really do. You got to put it on the calendar, and if it messes up, you got to have a backup day to go.
That's it. And then this is the weather. I tell you, it'll be really nice. You plan on going a day, and then it'll turn, and then with our situation, arranging childcare with the weather and all that. So it's a game of it, but got to go, and it was fun. So. Okay,
what else is going on the water around the boat ramps and all? You just seeing a lot of stuff?
A lot of stuff. In the bay, the redfish bite's really hot. Been talking to guides and just recreational guides, and they've been doing really good on redfish in shallow water around the docks and structure and anything that holds bait, and they've been doing really good, really consistent bite, and then we're still seeing the offshore stuff. I know red snapper closed, but we're still seeing pretty good catches of grouper come in, and then everybody's anticipating and getting ready for amberjack, going to be opening up soon.
Oh yeah.
So I mean, just staying busy and seeing a lot of good fish. people want to get out there early because it's so hot.
We've talked about that, about getting out there early. I mean, really, it's so important. I know when the folks coming in the boat ramps, I've been seeing some of them coming out down to St. Andrew the other day. They were coming in about 10 o'clock. They'd already been fishing.
Yep.
They were coming in about 10 o'clock.
Oh yeah, because you wore out from the heat, and if you're out there at daylight, you get out there at 5:30, then you've had about enough of it. And the fish too, once it gets like that, they turn off a lot of times.
Yeah.
Once it gets so hot. So, but yeah, just staying busy. Like I say, the boating season, I mean, it is just packed. All those liveries and rentals are doing very well on the beach, because even during the week, if that weather's decent, that there are a lot of boats out there.
And are you seeing pretty good participation as far as people on these rentals? That's one thing that always scares me. I just try to avoid them when I see them, because I know they mean well and they're out there enjoying it all, but a lot of times they don't know what they're doing. Yeah,
it's the course they have to pass is rather brief.
Yeah.
The boating safety thing they have to do, and it's one of those things. A lot of times, especially if it's someone from out of town, we try to educate on that, whether it be a dive flag or going too fast, or kind of being where they're not supposed to be. But yeah, I mean you've seen it out there. It's hundreds of pontoon boats out there on any given day, and it keeps us busy for sure.
And I was talking to an outdoorsman the other day, and FWC staff, a lot of times they've done a really good job, and this on regulations now. And he brought up a very good point.
Yep.
And Triple Tail is a classic case of it, where you have 2 per person, the limit is 2 per person.
Correct.
But then some people don't have a boat limit. Okay, now we have boat limits on other things.
Sure.
But on Triple Tail, what he's finding, this guy's out there all the time, that if you and I went, that's 4. But if we took Jeff and office staff here, we take 6 people, well, we could actually put 12 Triple Tail on the boat. Is that correct?
Yeah. See, that's the thing. There's no vessel limit.
Well, there's not a vessel limit.
Right.
So, but we do have some. Like on scallops now, we have a vessel limit.
Correct. Yeah, whichever's less, and then some of the other fish too, which they just recently reduced the cobia vessel limit. It used to be 6. Now you can have the 2, and then there's a vessel limit for redfish. So that might be something to look at in the future.
I'm going to get started on it. I'd like to just enlighten people, because this guy brought to my attention the Triple Tail itself is a fairly easy fish to catch. And I have friends that y'all saw the video and the trip we had and all, but if we had 5 people on the boat, we could have gotten 10, and all. That's going to.
Yeah, you could work on them.
Yeah, well, good. Let's take a quick break. We'll be right back. All right, welcome back. Here, Officer Travis Bassford with the Fish and Wildlife Commission, and also his better half is also an officer with Fish and Wildlife Commission. And that works out pretty good, doesn't it?
It does.
Y'all can share stories and all.
We have an understanding of each other's jobs, for sure.
You understand what you go through? I had that same day, honey. Okay, so what else we got, buddy?
Well, we've got, we want to talk about the Scallop Rodeo a little bit. We just had the one here at the St. Andrews Bay system, and wanted to go over some of the details of it, because we have one coming up for St. Joe Bay. It's something they did last year, and basically it's just something to where the FWC kind of gets the public involved, and they want volunteers to go out and help them with the scallop restoration in both these systems. So basically what it is you sign up. The event coming up in St. Joe Bay is going to be August 3rd from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. There's 3 different ramps I'll go over that you can launch out of and sign in, and then you have to land the scallops at these ramps. But what it does is as far as that one, it's kind of getting close to the real season, which is August 16th through September 15th. So if you want to go out and use it as a scouting trip and also help FWC with the restoration process. So what they do is you take these scallops, you can get 100 per person. Okay, 100 individual scallops, and you bring them back to the ramps. FWRI, the Fish and Wildlife Research Institute, and FWC, they'll be there. They'll collect the scallops, and then they put them in these predator exclusion cages in the bay system. So the one we just had here in St. Andrews Bay, they put them there kind of behind Shell Island in an area, and then over in St. Joe Bay, it's over close to Black's Island. But they put them in these cages, and they're trying to restore the population, so those won't be harvested during the season. But if you can kind of use it as a scouting trip, and you can say, hey, well, this is where I want to go when it opens up, and you're helping FWC out with the restoration process. So it's really good stuff. You can go online. I think we're going to get Jeff to put the website on there.
Right.
You can go on there, look at the maps. Like the one we just had here in St. Andrews Bay, it was just St. Andrews Bay system. So Hathaway Bridge to DuPont Bridge, just St. Andrews, not getting into West Bay or North Bay or East Bay, and doing that. And then St. Joe's got an area too that you collect them from. So it's a great program, and gets the public involved, and who knows if eventually we can get it opened here in Bay County. That remains to be seen, but they're trying to restore the populations and see. And we talked about this before. Scallops are so sensitive to water purity and things like that, and it's just one of those things to where we want them to come back. And St. Joe's kind of been up or down. We had the Red Tide event over there, but anything we can do to try to help restore them. A lot of people want to be on board with that. So we'll put the website up there where you can go on, find more information about it. And again, the one coming up in St. Joe Bay, August 3rd, 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. And then the 3 ramps are going to be that Presnell's, T.H. Stone Memorial State Park, and then Frank Pate Public Boat Ramp, Park Public Boat Ramp. So.
That's interesting. Like I say, it was such a huge population here at one time. In fact, I found some old video I may show pretty soon. I interviewed a guy about 7 years ago, Barkaloo, and he remembered in 1959 going out from Cargray Park.
Wow.
Where they washed up, he and his buddy, who worked for the FWC, and that back in 1959, they got a wash tub full. The wash tub, it would float right where the Cargray, where the benches are, straight out from there, and they filled up that wash tub full in 1959. Wow. That's how healthy it was. So,
wow.
We may not get back to that, but we need to all help out on it.
Yeah, and there's other areas. That area's changed so much since that time.
That's true.
You talk about 23rd Street and 98, but you've got areas around the Old Pass and Crooked Island Sound and areas up farther in the bays that are away from kind of the development that might be able to hold good numbers of them. So.
And that's the key to it right there. And Cargray Park was just starting, and that's interesting though. But our habitat, it seems like we have a shrinking habitat for a lot of our fish and game.
You're correct.
You see that firsthand.
Oh yeah, absolutely, and that's statewide. So that's a constant battle that we have to kind of balance. But anyways, great event. And then another thing too is got to be a part of was the workshops where they actually had also people came and got these little baby scallops about the size of your fingernail, and then they can raise them there in a predator exclusion cage, and then they can do research on them there. A lot of people were throwing those off their docks. So just a great program, and trying to help the restoration of scallops. It's such a cool fishery.
It is.
And been a part of it since we were young, and we want to see it continue for future generations.
That's true. You want to be able to take your kids to do the same thing.
Exactly, exactly. I touched earlier, we got Greater Amberjack opening up August 1st. So that'll, before I get back on the show, it'll be open. Remember, same 34-inch size limit at the Fork, and that will run through October 31st.
Okay.
Years past, the AJ and trigger season's kind of been together, but as we talked about earlier this year, no more triggerfish season this year, and I know I've heard from a lot of people, and we called them too when we went snapper fishing. We know they're out there, and
it seems like they understand. They hear it on the water. The triggerfish here on the water. Season's over. It's closed.
That's it.
They start biting.
We send an email out, and they get the word out.
I think so.
But yeah. So but next year, hopefully, we'll have good triggerfish season. Everyone's hopeful for that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So another thing too, we talked about last time, and they're going to move forward with this. We talk about these workshops they have. They had them on spotted sea trout. They had them on cobia. We've seen them on scallops, and then we just had some on blackfin tuna. The FWC Commission meeting was last week in Stuart, Florida, and they talked about blackfin tuna. So they've got this draft rule up that's going to be up for approval in October, and they're going to try to set some limits. And we talk about bag limits and vessel limits, and that's what they're wanting to do with this. Now, most of the outcry for blackfin tuna changes in the regulation came from Southeast Florida. We see them up here, but not in the numbers we see them down there. Because, like when I worked in Palm Beach County, the Gulf Stream was right there. So all those pelagics, dolphin, wahoo, tuna, and then your billfish, they were there in good numbers. But so what they're wanting to do is vessel limits would be 10 fish per day, and then 2 fish per person, whichever is greater. So that's what they're looking at with blackfin tuna. They brought it to the commission last week, and then they're going to try to get that approved in October. So never seen any regulation like that on blackfin, so that's a step in the right direction for those people that wanted that down there. And that's the thing too, it's just like a lot of things, the stakeholder input is what pushed this, because there hasn't really been a stock assessment showing any decline or increase or anything like that, but there's just so much outcry from the stakeholders, like we saw with the cobia.
There you go. There you go. Because we're on the water, and we got to take care of it ourselves, really. Yep. They can't do it all. That's interesting.
Yep.
Okay.
And I've got some other stuff. You know, they also did a draft rule on short fin mako. We talked about shark fishing. Another thing too, that shore-based shark fishing permit, if you have to take the education part of that, and you can go on there, we talked about the requirements of that. You just go to myfwc.com, click on saltwater fishing, and then the first thing that comes up is you can take that education course right online. It doesn't take long at all, and it's really good. And if you need it, you need to take it, but that's an easy way to do it. But when it comes to sharks, they're increasing the recreational size limit from 54 to 83 inches on short fin mako.
Okay.
And there's some background on that if you want to do any research on it. But another thing too, a change, because usually 54 was kind of the standard if we had a size limit on sharks, and they wanted to increase that. Mako is a shark that's targeted, I guess, more for eating than some of the other sharks, and they wanted to increase that size limit on them. So that will be in state waters. That they're going to push out very soon on that. So.
All right, that sounds good. Let's take our final break, and we'll be right back with our case of the month. Okay, welcome back. Fishing Game Time today brought to us by Blue Water Outriggers down in Port St. Joe. 4:51 to 6:51 this morning, and 5:12 to 7:12 tonight. We've got so much to talk about. We're going to do the case of the month first, but then Travis has a lot more. So let's jump on our case of the month.
Sure, case of the month, and I didn't pick one in particular. Usually we like to do that and tell a cool story, and then we kind of round table that. But this one, I just wanted to recognize everyone in the Northwest region. We just had our, well, it's been a couple weeks now, but excuse me, we had our 4th of July holiday weekend, busiest holiday weekend of the year. And during that time, Northwest region now, so that's Pensacola, Tallahassee, there was 22 BUI arrests. 22. Yep, so great job by our officers out there on the water, patrolling it, trying to keep everyone safe. And I've said this before, and I think I speak for a lot of us. You know, most of us join for the things on this patch. You know, we join for the resource. We have a passion for the resource, protecting fish and wildlife resources here in the state of Florida. But boating safety is another core mission of FWC that we focus on, especially in the summertime when it's so busy out there. And the thing about making a BUI arrest, you know, you make a fish case, someone's got, 5 grouper they shouldn't, or snapper, or they went over the bag limit on brim or shell cracker. It's good. It protects the resource, and it's important. But when you make a BUI arrest, you're affecting someone's life. That's right. And we all know that a person's life is more valuable than an animal's. Yeah. And when it comes down to it, we've seen it firsthand. The officers out there, what alcohol, driving impaired, whether you're under the influence of alcohol or a chemical controlled substance. The consequences of that, and that sometimes is fatal boating accidents, it's serious bodily injury boating accidents, or other things, and just a great job. So that number there, it just shows the work that needs to be done, and it's important. And
I'm passionate about that too, about the DUI and BUIs, because it's affected our family. And just this past July 4th up at Smith Lake, Alabama, 24-year-old girl living a teacher in Birmingham, graduated from Troy State, family girl and all, and she was in a boat with a boat under influence. She was not. She was just an innocent passenger, and she was killed on Smith Lake. And that's we have statistics and we have real people that happening to. So thank you all for doing that. And y'all see somebody driving erratically, call them up. Okay, now let's jump to another subject. You were in Southeast Florida and Southwest Florida. Tell us about what's going on down there. Well,
yeah, I was down there. I did the first 4.5 years in Palm Beach, but I would go down into Broward, so especially Broward and Miami-Dade County. For years, there's been a problem, well, southern Florida in general, with invasive species. And when talking to one in particular, and I just had a cool stat here I was sharing with Coach, is the pythons down there, especially in Everglades National Park, but they're also in a lot of other state-managed lands and private property down there. And what happened is people released these, they got out in the wild, they started breeding, and that habitat down there is so it is just so remote and very difficult to traverse in different parts of the park. And it's hard to get to them. So they started trying to remove these pythons. And as a general rule, FWC encourages the removal of all invasive fish and wildlife and plants. As a general rule, there are a few that are allowed, and there's certain reasons for that. But when it comes to pythons, now this has been going on a few years now, and this has been FWC removing them, private hunters, and alike, and they've used a lot of different methods, dogs, and just all kinds of cool stuff. But as of to date, they just did an update at the meeting. They've removed over 8,000 pythons from the wild in Florida.
That's incredible.
So that
I thought maybe 1,000. There's been 8,000 removed.
8,000 removed.
Wow.
Now there's a lot more still out there, but a lot of people see it, and I know there's TV shows and there's a couple hundred snakes out there. No, it's a big problem.
Holy Toledo, that's amazing.
Yep, they've done a great job, and they're not going to slow down because what these snakes do, they harm the native fish and wildlife. And
the raccoons, and they eat everything.
Everything, yeah. They can eat a small deer. They can do all kinds of stuff. So
that's fascinating.
Pretty cool. And we were talking too before. When I was down in Southeast Florida, I got to fish some of the canals and fish for butterfly peacock bass, which is awesome. And that was introduced as a sport fish down there. Now all the other fish are just kind of invasive, but just what a cool fishery that is, and just got to see the difference between native fish and then the exotic or the invasive fish, how they handle things. And I remember when I was fishing for peacocks one time, I was fishing with them with live bait, little rapalas, things like that. But I was ripping my rapala down the canal, and I saw some look like bait jump, and it actually was the fry of peacock bass. That's the difference between a largemouth and peacock. Is peacock will actually guard their fry. A largemouth, once they hatch, they're on their own.
Next time you come on, let's talk about that more in detail and all. That's fascinating and all. We're going to run out of time.
Travis, we do always.
Thank you, bud. I know.
Enjoy it.
Thank you all for watching Panhandle Outdoors. Have a good day. Have a good week, and enjoy the great outdoors. Do something good for your fellow man, and God bless.
Thanks for watching America's only daily outdoor TV show, Panhandle Outdoors with Winston Chester, featuring hunting, fishing, and other activities and information to help you enjoy the great outdoors. Join us next time for Panhandle Outdoors.